Hello and welcome to Lily de Silva, lesson 12. In this short video we'll deal with the grammar. In the lessons up until now we've looked at the absolutives and infinitives, but for the finite verbs we've seen only the third person. That's the he, she and it in the singular, they in the plural. In this one now we look at the first and second persons, the I, we, and you. So looking at the root pach, meaning to cook. That's let me switch over now to iPad. There we are. Root pach. It's just a verb belonging to the first class. So he cooks, he, she, it cooks is pachati. By adding this ati ending to the root. For you cook in the singular, instead of ati, it is asi. So you cook pachasi. And I cook, it has a characteristic M in it, but you lengthen the A, so it's pachami. So pachati, pachasi, pachami. And in the plural, we've already had they cook is pachanti. So instead of ati, it's anti. Those of you who know Latin will see there's this, in Latin you have the characteristically the third singular will end in a T, or have it, and the third plural will end in an NT. So we're seeing the same in Sanskrit and Pali, pachati, pachanti. For the second plural, that's you in the plural, it is atta, pachata. So if you're speaking to one person, pachasi, two or more people, pachata. And in the plural, instead of ami, it's ama, pachama, we cook. And notice, I think it's always, but certainly almost always, that where you have this, the first person M preceded by an a in the conjugation of a verb, it's lengthened. You get pachami, pachama, pachati, pachasi, pachami, pachanti, pachata, pachama. When we're conjugating verbs, traditionally in Latin and Greek and in the modern languages of Europe as well, we tend to start I in the singular with the first person meaning I. And in Latin, amor, amas, amat, and the plural, amamus, amatis, amant, and so on. In French, j'aime, tu aimes, il aime, and so on. In Sanskrit and Pali, you do it the other way around. In Sanskrit and Pali, you start with the first, which they call, we call it the third person. In Sanskrit, it's called the first person. The he, and then you proceed to the plural. So in Pali, traditional Pali grammar, and in Sanskrit grammar would be the same, you would conjugate this verb by saying pachati, pachanti, pachasi, pachata, pachami, pachama. Nothing important turns on it. It's just the way it's done in the traditional Indian grammar. Another point to be noted here, those of you who are looking at the printed book, Lily de Silva printed book at page 46, will see that the pronoun is put in brackets before the verb. So it's written like this. So pachati. Tvam pachasi, and so on. And for the first person, the I, aham pachami, and so on. Now, as in, for example, Latin, and also in certain modern European languages, but not all, in particular Italian and Spanish, the person who is doing it is inherent in the verb itself. In Spanish, for example, voy, vas, va. I go, thou goest, you go, he goes. And in Italian, from to see, vedere, vedo is I see, vedi, you see, vede, he sees. So which person is doing it, first, second, third, and singular, plural, is inherent in the form of the verb itself, and therefore it's unnecessary to specify the pronoun, unlike in English, where we do have to specify the pronoun. And indeed, the Germanic languages generally have to specify the pronoun, as indeed does French, of course. In Sanskrit and Pali, and it'll be the same in Latin and in Greek, modern and classical Greek, you state the pronoun only if it is a kind of emphasis on it. So if you're just saying, for example, take the examples in the sentences here. They cook rice, given as te bhattam pachanti, te meaning they. So if you just ask somebody, well, what are they doing? Kinkarunti, what are they doing? They're cooking rice. You just say bhattam pachanti. Bhattam pachanti. You wouldn't need to use say, they. If, however, you were saying something like, they are cooking rice, but you aren't. You're making the distinction, so you emphasize they're doing one thing, you're doing another. And so to make that emphatic distinction, then you would use the pronoun. So they are cooking rice, but you are not. You would say te bhattam pachanti, but tvam na pachasi. In most of the example sentences here, in the ones beginning near the bottom of page 46, we note that the pronoun is put in there. Maybe it's put in just for a bit of extra practice, but in most of these cases where no special emphasis is needed, in normal Pali prose you would omit it. It's not wrong to put it in. It's a matter. Sometimes it's a matter of style, but just remember where it's perfectly obvious from the form of the verb who is meant, and when there's no special emphasis, one person is doing it, the other is not. I'm doing it, you're not, and so on. It would be unnecessary and sometimes even a bit heavy and stylistically bad to keep on adding the pronoun unnecessarily. And it would be the same, for example, those of you who speak Spanish and Italian, if you constantly use the personal pronoun every time you use a verb, it would be heavy. It would just sound wrong. It would be unnecessary if the who is doing it is inherent in the form of the verb. So I'll run through these sentences with you. In number 2 now, examples in sentence formation. So bhattam pachati, or just bhattam pachasi. Tvam bhattam pachasi, or just bhattam pachasi. Aham bhattam pachami, bhattam pachami. And in the plural, te bhattum pachanti, or bhattam pachanti. Tumhe bhattam pachatha, or just bhattam pachata. And finally, mayam bhattam pachama, bhattam pachama. Right, and we will now proceed in the next video to the Pali to English translation exercises. That's all on this one.